my name's Brooke and you're watching Patience Over Profits. In today's episode, you will get to see some of the work and planning that goes into creating outdoor cannabis gardens, as well as an exclusive garden tour of Vivid Farms where you will learn about indoor perpetual cultivation and what it takes to grow premium craft cannabis. So first, let's head on over to the Central Michigan Cancer Project's donation garden and see what they are up to.
Hello, my name is Tyler Dutcher. I'm the co-founder of Vivid Farms and a team member at Central Michigan Cancer Project. Welcome to Patience Over Profits. Today, we're going to talk about one of the most important steps when starting an outdoor cannabis garden, and that's planting before you plant. Last week, we had some volunteers come in and excavate a full yard of soil out of each one of these holes. We have 8 plants going in out here. And all the soil was moved out down here down the hill, so it's not going to affect any of our drainage or the water flow coming down through here this summer. Next, we're going to go and see what Tony's up to in working to prevent some ground moles getting in to attack our root system.
So today, guys, I'm going to be showing you how to keep ground moles and other ground-faring pests out of your root system. What we're going to be doing is we're going to be putting this chicken wire down inside of our 3-foot by 3-foot holes, and it's going to allow our roots to grow through, but it's not going to let pests get into it to ruin your root system. The main bulk of it's right here, and that's what you want to protect.
Some of the problems that we encountered were just red clay and some big boulders that were in these holes that we had to figure out a way to get them out without contaminating any of our ground with oil from tractors or hydraulic fluid. So we ended up having one of my family members come down and came up over on the side, the east side over here, and made sure that he didn't get his tractor or anything anywhere near any of the ground where we're gonna have these plants that's gonna be producing all of this medicine. Sometimes you run into these big boulders like this that you're not able to lift out by hand, and it's good to know somebody that is able to come and give you a hand if you need it. So we're out here at the compost pile that's being used for the Central Michigan Cancer Project donation garden. And what we're doing right now is turning the soil and making sure that everything's equally mixed. We've already went and mixed in all of our worm castings, azomite, and our other organic amendments to help these living microbes breed and multiply in the soil. The difference between this soil and a lot of the other soils that people use outside is this is a living soil. Most soil that people use is artificially enhanced with chemical fertilizers and time-release nutrients that sometimes is really hard to get out from the plants when comes harvest time. So this Garden Glory soil, this is recycled Garden Glory soil is what it is. And every year we remove our soil and excavate it out of the ground, and we re-amend it with different variety of organic amendments dependent on what our plants are lacking. One thing to keep in mind when you're doing this is you don't just want to add whatever amendment or whatever your buddy thinks that should go in there. You want to get a good soil test done on your soil so you know what it's lacking to make sure that you're not over supplementing in certain aspects of the nutrients. We get it all nice and mixed up and it's done doing the hot compost. We're then going to take and remove a portion of this over to this tarp. Once we get our formula correct, we're going to use 1/3 of our compost, 1/3 of the topsoil that was removed from the holes that we excavated. The reason why we're doing that is there's a lot of microlife that's packed in the topsoil of our ground. And we want to be able to introduce that in with our soil and keep as much of a symbiotic relationship as we can with these plants in the soil. And the other third, we're going to mix with perlite and cocoa to help with the drainage of the plants. We run into a lot of red clay out here and sand, which it kind of stops the plant from being able to reach its roots out and get to its full potential of what it can be. So this is another step that we would recommend to taking your garden to the next level.
So we talked about outdoor cultivation and checked out the progress in the donation garden. Let's head on over to the location where Vivid Farms originated and get an exclusive garden tour of the facility.
Hey guys, so I've put some different containers up here, bags that we use for the organic amendments in our compost pile. And this helps reactivate anything that might have been dormant throughout the winter period. A really good amendment that you should use is Ancient Forest, and it's 100% organic Alaskan humus. It has millions and millions of different microbes that have just recently been unearthed by new glacier melting. Another good thing is worm castings. Worm castings is food for your microbes. So all the microbes that you're producing from your ancient forest and your compost are going to need food to eat. The worm castings is a great supplement for them to sustain their life. Another supplement that we use in there is the kelp meal. The kelp meal, and you want to make sure that you're getting it processed in the proper way. But your kelp meal is a great supplement for a time-release nitrogen. And nitrogen is what is used to create chlorophyll in the plant, which is used during the vegetative state, which promotes lots of green growth. Other things that are good to put into your compost are blood meal, seabird guano, and bat guano. Bat guano especially is good in the end of flowering to promote big, fat, healthy nugs. So let's take a look in our veg room. We're in the veg room with Vivid Farms. And there's a few things that we can take a look at while we're in here. This is a perpetual grow. So everything is in a different week throughout both rooms. It starts out over here as a clone, which is just a cutting of one of these more mature plants, put into a rooting hormone and deposited into a cube that you can see down there. We use a couple different variances of cubes. We've used the Grodan and the Root Riot. We actually just ran out of the Grodan, so this is why we have just the Root Riot here right now. Once they come out of this step, they graduate into a cup. And the reason why we have some 1 gallons too, but we think that they root out better in these cups, and it gives them just like about a week until they're rooted, and then they get graduated from that into a 3-gallon pot. Once it's in a 3-gallon pot, it usually takes about 3 weeks to 4 weeks, depending on the strain. And then it gets deposited into something a little bit bigger. And this is a 7-gallon pot. And this is where it's going to spend the rest of its life here in the veg room. So let's take a look at some of the equipment that we have here in this veg room. This light right here is called a T5. It runs off only about 345 watts, so you save quite a bit of electricity using these high efficient lights than you do these high intensity lights. This is a 1000 watt HID. We introduced this in the middle stage of the veg period to help it get used to the high intensity light that it's going to experience when it goes into the flower room. This also helps with the growth. If you really want to take your plants to the next level and get those big plants, then having them introduced to a high intensity light before you enter the flower room is extremely crucial. Another thing to take a look at is this fan up here. It's really important to control every aspect of the climate if you're cultivating inside. This right here removes all the heat from the room when the temperature gets above a certain point. It's ran by a controller that we have over here on the wall. And that controller has a thermostat that decides what temperature that the fan needs to kick on to remove the heat away from the plants and away from the atmosphere. Another crucial thing is the humidity. In the veg room, plants like to be between 50% and 70% humidity, and that helps them transpire properly to ensure the most maximum amount of growth. Up here, we have a wall fan. This is a 16-inch wall fan. You can get this from any local hydro store. It has 3 different settings, 1, 2, and 3, and it also oscillates back and forth. What this does is ensures that all your plants are refreshing the CO2 that's around the leaf regularly. A plant can use all the CO2 that's up around the leaf within 3 minutes. So by having a wall fan moving all of these plants, you make sure that you avoid any deficiencies. So now that we've finished up in here, let's go check out the flower room. Now we're in the flower room for Vivid Farms. And as you can see, there's a lot of big plants in here, and they're all in different stages and various stages of life. We start down here, and you see that there's there's a little bit of buds on there, and they're just starting. But then you work your way down this way, and they get bigger and bigger and bigger as they move along. Turning the corner and coming back across, And you can see these ones over here are just getting ready to finish. That's why the leaves are yellowing out, they're getting their fall colors, and they're getting ready to produce crystals and trichomes instead of growing and producing buds. As you can see, all the plants have a nice green tone until you get later on that other side. And that's usually when the plant stops using the nitrogen that is in the soil and is being fed to it, and it's using more phosphorus and potash for densening up and bulking those buds. Some of the equipment that you want to take note of in here are these high intensity lights. These are HPS lights, like the one that you'd seen in the veg room. Ensure that the light penetrates deep down into the canopy. And it's really important to have high intensity lighting if you're trying to get those dense buds and let your plants reach the full potential that they possibly could. In this room, we run several different strains. In this room particularly, there's 5 different strains. We run Ziggy Star Crunch, Candyland, we have a Durban Poison, a Lemon Tahoe, and a GMO Cookies. The GMO Cookies is like a 10-week flower, so it kind of interrupts the way that this room works. This is a 9-week perpetual. So it takes 9 weeks from a plant to start out like something like that and end up like something like that. We can't really run any big sativas or extended flowering plants. They don't work for our room. The temperature and humidity is extremely important in the flower room too. Depending on the stage of flower that it's in, it might like 30% humidity all the way up to 50% humidity. In the very late stages of flowering, it's important to pay attention to your VPD chart. You can find a chart like that online or find a link in the video. When it comes to temperature control of the room, a ductless mini split is definitely the way to go. This one is the Mr. Cool Advantage series. It's a 24,000 BTU, and it also comes with a heat pump. So if you're in a cold climate, it can also heat your room in the nighttime when the lights aren't on. One good thing about these mini splits is you don't have to do a lot of cutting holes in your room. It's easy to keep a nice controlled and sealed environment when you don't have to worry about cutting a bunch of holes in your shell. So what we have up here is an Exhale homegrown CO2 bag. Normally we run CO2 enrichment in the room, which is a constant feed of 1,800 parts per million of CO2 through a rain system. These bags right here make sure that when you run out of CO2, your plants are still getting all the CO2 they need to grow. Now it's time to get up close and personal with these plants to see what they're all about.
Alright, today I'm going to be showing you how we do our transplants on our indoor gardens. First things first, you want to make sure that we have a good base soil. You want it broken up good, and you don't want any clumps whatsoever in your soil. It'll stop your roots, and it'll make just for bad soil. In our indoor plants we add azomite. It's full of micro-life and other essential nutrients that our plants need. We also use White Widow. White Widow promotes healthy root growth, and it'll make available nutrients more available for your plants. All right, let's get to planting.
So I hope you guys enjoyed the garden tour as much as I did, and we'll see you next time.
That was a pretty high-tech room. I can't wait to see what the future holds for Vivid Farms. Unfortunately, that brings us to the end of today's episode. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next time on Patience Over Profits.